I love a good revenge story. Vengeance is maybe the coziest theme there is for me. Like, justice is slippery, ethereal, elusive, but a good revenge tale comforts me with the belief that the baddies will get theirs because in most areas of society and in history, the baddies do not, in fact, get theirs. Corrupt politicians, iconoclastic leaders of industry, hateful or at best incompetent police, even down to that boyfriend you had who never apologized for forgetting your birthday party because it happened on the same night as the new Madden game was released. Justice is a rare luxury, so we build fantasies around a rageful vigilante who will deliver bloody wrath upon those who harm us. And for a moment, say the length of a movie, we feel a little better about injustices in the world. I think a lot about taking a tire iron to the knees of shitheads who abuse their spouses, or slashing the tires of cop cars that block bike lanes, or crafting the most destructive words to decimate the psyches of rude people in DMV lines. But beyond the instant gratification that a vengeance narrative gives us, what is there? There's anger, self righteousness, and ultimately violence. It's a dead end street, that revenge, because even if we achieve it, have we really grown up? Have we really fixed anything? Or are we tripping on the psychotropic effects of rage? An enormous subgenre of horror is dedicated to the revenge narrative. The Last House on the Left, I Spit on Your Grave, I Saw the Devil, Ms. 45, all the way up to the 2018 psychedelic horror revenge tale Mandy. Vietnam vet Red's wife, Mandy, is kidnapped and killed by a Jesus-y cult, and so he vows to seek revenge. What follows is a bloodbath of grindhouse-esque antics that result in Red completing his entire honey-do list of murders. But what is he left with other than the dead bodies of evil people? He can kill all the mosquitoes he wants, but it doesn't make mosquitoes go away as a whole. There's always more where those came from. And Red finds himself bloodied and grimacing at the end of this movie, every task complete, but no Mandy brought back to life. Does he feel joy, elation, satisfaction, or has he thought beyond the initial rush of pleasure that comes from enacting violence for a righteous cause? As an army vet during the Vietnam conflict, Red only knows pain and hurt, weapons, and a war without end, the only tools we think we have to repair the pain. Hi, Cecil.
Hi, Jeffrey.
What's your favorite planet?
What's my favorite planet? Well, planet Earth, of course.
Oh, that's so nice.
I mean, it's the only one I've ever been to.
Oh, you're such a homer.
Yeah.
That's so good. That's a great answer, actually, because yeah, all of the others seem like very violent landscapes. Maybe
Oh,
Mars
yeah.
seems kind of mild,
Yeah.
but
Kind of chill, a little more
yeah.
chill than some of the others. Yeah, some of the others are definitely like, oh no, no, absolutely not. There's too much going on here that wants to kill you all the time.
Uh-huh. Yeah, the more I read about the planet Venus and just how absolutely horrible the atmosphere is on Venus, like the heavy, massive amounts of pressure, and it rains fiery diamonds or some shit like that.
Oh
Like
my God.
it's
What?
so intense. Like they can barely even explore what's happening on Venus because every ship melts when it hits it.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Wow.
Mercury seems like it should be the hottest, but it's
Yeah.
not because it
Yeah.
doesn't have an atmosphere. It's just a rock.
Oh,
But Venus traps in all of that heat and pressure. So it's so much hotter than Mercury is.
interesting.
Yeah.
But
Anyways,
I do kind of agree with Mandy. I think Jupiter's pretty dope.
Jupiter's amazing.
Yeah.
Jupiter's super cool. I think Saturn is overrated by the rings.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, I
Oh,
think
oh,
that's a little over.
controversial.
That's right. That's right. Gauche.
Oh gosh, just putting it all out there. Oh my God. Take one thing off, Saturn.
Just as a side note, I remember a few years ago just getting onto some clickbaity thing on the internet, and it was about the red spot on Jupiter, and it was like red spot, the Jupiter's famous red spot is fading away, and here's why. I was like,
Oh,
oh.
oh no.
And so I remember it kind of giving me the same feeling as like when you read articles about climate change and that like
Yeah.
the Great Barrier Reef is dying and et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, oh shit. And then only to realize that they're talking like in terms of astronomical
Uh-huh.
fade, like it's
Yeah.
rapidly fading astronomically speaking. So like that ring, Cecil, is going to go away, or I'm sorry, that red spot is going to go away like within the next 10,000 years, which is like
Oh
20,000 years
no.
sooner than we originally thought it would.
Oh. Wow.
So,
Well, I'm
yeah.
gonna have to set my alarm to go visit
You need to go see
Jupiter's red spot.
Jupiter.
Just to let me put a quick reminder in my calendar here to get that done before the next 10,000 years pass.
Have you seen this movie before?
I've seen half of this movie before.
Oh, okay.
No, I fully fell asleep the first time I tried to watch this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I made it to the abduction and I just my eyes could not stay open. But I made it through this time. Ha ha.
Haha.
A little more
I
prepared.
did not really know what to expect out of this movie. And in a
Okay.
lot of ways, I got what little I did expect. I got exactly that.
Yeah.
Because it's abduction, murder, revenge,
Yeah.
Kill Bill on an acid trip, right?
Yeah, totally.
Uh, I did not expect like the acid qualities of this movie. The the extreme color washes happening
Oh,
in this
yeah.
film, the weird light, the crazy lighting effects. It's really, really amazing. It made me immediately want to go watch Twin Peaks Fire Walk with me again, which is
Oh,
what I
for sure.
did right after this.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Um, yeah, it's really interesting. And also to your point about falling asleep the first time you tried to watch this movie, it's slow.
Yeah.
It's got a soothing hand. It's tense, but like not upsetting tense. It's like you
Mhm.
know something bad is coming, but it's pretty chill. It takes its time just showing you shit.
I think it's slow. It has long patches of silence or
Mhm.
long patches of soundtrack, I should say.
Mhm.
Because the soundtrack is, I gotta say, for bitchin' soundtrack,
Yeah.
definitely up there. Like
Yeah.
it knows the power of good background music with
Mhm.
awesome visuals,
It
and it
really
kind of lets
does.
you live in that. But like the scenes, like there's not a lot of talky dialogue that your brain could kind of hook into. It sort of lets you wash over you.
Yeah. Well, we start with an epigraph. When I die, bury me deep, lay two speakers at my feet, wrap some headphones around my head, and rock and roll me when I'm dead.
I love it.
I
But
love it.
also, why do you need headphones and a speaker?
That's yeah, we should probably workshop that a little bit, maybe.
You just want to feel the like wow, 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 wow of your bass.
Yeah, yeah.
I gotta feel it in my bones. There's nothing more metal than that, man.
And then we get these opening credits, which is we start with lumberjacks somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. Camp Crystal Lake, basically.
Yes.
It's even though I know that's New York, but they refer to it as Crystal Lake.
I love all the sort of names. It's like Shadow Mountain,
Uh-huh.
Spirit River, Crystal Lake.
Yes.
It's like just Joseph Campbell, Carl Jung enough
Mm-hmm.
to be like,
Mm-hmm.
are these real places? Or is this a geography of the mind, man?
It's so fitting because the Mandy reads a lot of these kind of pulp sci-fi fantasy
Totally.
novels with these beautiful, very pulpy covers on them, and
Mhm.
they do that with the title treatments. There's kind of like like three different acts of this film,
Yeah.
and it's going to start with The Shadow Mountains, 1983 AD, and the each of these title card text treatments are designed in a fantasy novel cover sort
Oh,
of
they're so
font.
cool. I mean, it's so cool. It's I love it.
Like you want that you want the Shadow Mountains 1983 AD tattooed on your body. And it
Uh-huh.
just yeah, just
Absolutely.
put that up on your shoulder or something.
Absolutely.
But Red Miller is played by Nicolas Cage. He is a
He's a
lumberjack.
lumberjack and he
Mhm.
is okay. He works all night and he sleeps all day.
He is it's everything is kind of melancholy this first half of
Yeah.
the movie. It's but it's peaceful melancholy because there's a you can tell from the get-go that he's unsettled. He has an unsettled life. And it's not really explicitly stated that he was particularly in the Vietnam conflict, but this is a 1983 takes place in 1983. We know from just a gesture in the helicopter as the lumberjacks are being taken away that he no longer drinks.
Yeah.
And we also meet his like war vet buddy Carruthers, who like lives completely off the grid in the hills in a trailer. So there is a thing where you're like, this man has seen some shit. And the way
Oh
he
yeah.
looks down from the helicopter in the beginning to the trees of the Pacific Northwest, very different than the landscape of Vietnam, but I'm sure he has been in a helicopter before.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I didn't really think about that, but it totally made sense as soon as you said that he's a vet.
And on the drive home, he's got the radio on in his, Ford Bronco or whatever, listening to Ronald Reagan giving a speech about a return to family
Oh
values.
yeah.
Oof.
Oh, the 80s. Somehow we've not really clawed our way out of that decade even
No,
now.
no, we have not recovered from Ronnie. At home, Mandy is smoking dope and making cool fantasy art.
Oh my God, the art is so dope. I gotta say, so my dad was a big sci-fi fantasy reader. Like we had like an entire room dedicated in our house to like all of his sci-fi novels.
Hmm.
And I don't think I read like a single one of them except for like one or two. But I loved looking at the covers of these kind of pulpy fantasy sci-fi books when I was a kid. And it was like the covers were enough. Especially now, I found an old Conan the Barbarian short story compilation,
Uh-huh.
and the artwork is so amazing. It is so amazing. These like hand drawn, hand painted. It's just very 70s, like late 70s metal. It's metal as fuck. There's like no other
Yeah.
way to describe it.
Yeah, she is wearing a Motley Crue
Yes.
sleeveless shirt. She's doing this.
There she's got her Black Sabbath t-shirt
Hmm.
on.
One thing that I really just melted into this movie. I really like this movie a lot, and I really like this first hour, especially because of I think just like there's so many good special effects, but I think hair and makeup are so
Mhm.
strong here.
Yeah.
I don't think they did anything to Nick Cage other than give him that beard and whatever else, but he looks so normal. Like he
Yeah.
looks like a normal human man. And he goes full Nick Cage by the end of this film, but he has the dialogue between the two of them is so naturalistic. And also for Andrea Riceborough, this like to have like the long straight black hair and big chunky glasses, sleeveless Motley Crue shirt, kind of that no makeup look.
Yeah.
She looks like exactly like you would think somebody should look if they're drawing fantasy paintings
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
listening to heavy metal.
Like zero fucks given.
Yeah.
Like this is they're not living off the grid, but they have found this like they're separate from society ness. They live deep in the woods
Hmm.
and they seem to be making it work.
Yeah. Yeah. I adored this knock knock joke he tells her of knock knock, who's there? Eric Estrada. Eric Estrada who? Eric Estrada from Chips. What the living shit. It's so good.
Amazing. But it's like we really have to it's so funny how, tenderness and intimacy is really like the name of the game between these two. Like we have to establish so early that they're really like good life, bad life. They have found some sort of peace in the
Mhm.
woods with each other in
Yeah.
order to make the revenge that much sweeter
Yeah.
later on.
Yeah, of course. I also really appreciate just how tough she is too, like how in herself she is.
Oh yeah.
And that's I think what makes this relationship so special because he is not in her arty world. He may not
Yeah.
even be in her heavy metal world.
Yeah.
But he loves her art. The way he looks at the art that she's making is not just like, "Oh, honey, that's beautiful." He says that, but then the camera lingers on him staring at it, and you can kind of see his face really taking it all in.
It's like admiration. Like, I
Yeah.
can't believe you can do this.
Yeah. And that's so, as you said, so vital to this movie because it sets up just how much they mean to each other.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of long, peaceful shots of them camping out, of them on a boat on a lake, hanging out by the campfire. But he's having freaky fucking dreams.
Yeah.
And this one dream he has where she comes up from the lake water, comes out of the lake water slowly to the campfire, and like her one eye is
He's
fully
huge.
dilated and larger than the other. It's freaky.
It's so scary. Like, and the character, like the makeup design, like she's got this like scar on
Uh-huh.
her cheek, which
Yeah.
is, kind of like disconcerting enough, and it's like kind of normal, but when you like really these shots of her, like in the beginning of her face, are so freaky deaky.
Mhm.
And then later the shots when like she is tripping balls, also freaky deaky, and her face is like, oh my God. But like what an amazing thing of just letting a like just a face on camera, and you take one little detail, like you enlarge someone's eye. Terrifying.
Mhm. This movie also moves back and forth in very small doses between real life and animation. The animation
Yeah,
usually just depicts a vision or a dream. It usually
sure.
doesn't take over for the action of the film. But yeah, he has a couple of moments where he dreams her in fully animated form, the
Yeah.
blurring of reality and fantasy. She she wakes him from a bad dream and it tells him just a horrible story, and this
Oh
reminded
my
me of
God.
Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, that sometimes the most harrowing visual in a horror film is actually just an oral anecdote,
Yeah.
that we don't actually see any of this, but it was about her dad hating the starlings because they ate the cherries off the cherry tree. And
So he decides to collect them and beat them to death.
with a with I think a crowbar.
A
Yeah.
crowbar, or
In a
and also have his children help him beat them to death.
yeah. Uh
Traditional family values, Jeffrey.
it does so much because one, it's a horrible scene, perfect for a movie like this, for a horror film to set the unease, but also because in the same sort of way that we don't talk specifically about Red's life in Vietnam, we don't talk about her abusive family,
Yeah,
but it
yeah,
sets the tone of like, well, I know if he's doing that to those baby birds,
yeah,
I can already imply what he's
yeah.
done to his children.
Which it makes the sort of their little, kind of sanctuary in the forest that much more rich and earned, because we imply that she's survived this like terrible traumatic childhood
Yeah.
and has found some sort of peace with Red.
Mandy one day is walking to work. She works at a gas station. So she's walking down this like dirt road and it's fully red washed, fully saturated. Almost no contrast. It's so interesting because when the color washes over Andrea Riceborough's face, like her eyebrows go away. Like there's just
Yeah.
something about just what it does to her look entirely. And there's a van full of very culty looking people
Oh
driving by.
dear.
And it is Jeremiah Sand, who is the leader of this cult in the passenger seat, played by Linus Roach.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
was like, who is I know this man. I know him. I
Yeah.
know him. I know him. Fucking Wing Wings of the Dove? Is that
Oh, I don't know. Oh, I haven't seen that movie in forever. He there was a movie in the 90s called Priest that
Priest
was
was the
very
one?
like, yeah, that was like
Yeah.
very informative for me as like a young gay kid watching things. I was like, oh, it's that guy. I think he also plays like Batman's dad in one of the
Okay,
Batman
great.
movies.
I was in college when Priest came out, and there was a huge protest for the film society that tried to put on Priest.
Oh wow.
And there
Yeah.
was a huge protest to not have that movie shown. And then they ended up being like, fuck you, we're showing the movie.
Yeah.
And I went to go see the movie, and I really liked the movie and was like, I don't understand the problem. I don't I
You're
don't
like,
fully I mean, I get it, like it's dealing with a lot of very difficult things, and
yeah.
it's been a while since I've seen it. But I was also like, you guys, it's a movie. It's
Yeah.
just showing the human condition.
Well, people get all up into all sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when their institutions have, kind of gray areas, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
with gayness or, I don't know, priests taking a mistress, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
unlicensed marriages, things like that. People tend to get a little bit uptight.
It is pretty ballsy of a filmmaker to presume that the Catholic Church has done anything wrong. It's
A
pretty
what?
it's pretty galling. So I guess I can't understand why people were upset. But this is the Children of the New Dawn, and we
Oh
know
my
this
God.
because we get that title sequence of Children of the New Dawn animated on our screen.
Oh my God, I love it. In like full Stephen King font.
Yeah. The other thing I love about this moment is as she's passing the van, she makes eye contact with Jeremiah Sand. And so the last shot of her looking like down the barrel of the camera, she's almost fully off the right side of the screen and it pauses. Like it just, stamps that image for a
Yeah.
second and it's ever so slightly motion blurred, just
Hmm.
ever so slightly. And it looks like a still image from CCTV when TV news says this woman has
Sure.
been missing.
Yeah. No, it's exactly that. Like the idea that this is the last time seen alive image.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it also has this very intimate effect. Like she's looking like right into the camera, i.e., into Jeremiah Sand's eyes, and she has this like ever so slight smile,
Hmm.
ever so slight, that I'm sure he interprets as a come hither stare, come and kidnap me stare.
Yes, yes. So back at the cult compound, we get to know
Oh,
Jeremiah a little bit more. And
he's having a hard night.
oh,
He's so he's what's wrong? What's wrong, brother brother Sand? I don't know, Father Sand, whatever they fucking call him.
uh-huh.
Are you okay? You feel all right?
I feel naked without her, he says. I,
God.
I must have her. This is, I think, such a great depiction of cult leader, right? Like so
Yeah.
much of these of male cult leaders kind of revolve around some type, not to bring it back to fucking Freud or whatever, but some type of like deep-seated mommy or parental issue of I get what I want, and then you build a world in which people continually, for some reason, do
Yeah.
that for you.
Yeah.
They
And
get you what you want.
what you want is always changing according to
Hmm.
who you're talking to, so that way no one can ever fully fulfill your wishes or desires, so that way you always have like a leg up on people. Like
And the
the way, oh
beauty,
my, like it's interesting, like just watching the three cult members that he interacts with in this scene. It's really interesting watching his tactic, sort of keeping them off guard, like the way he treats Mother Marlene is like very accusatory. Like it's like you are nothing, you are
Mhm.
shit.
If you're not with me, you will not ascend. Just shut the
Yeah,
fuck up and go get me Brother Swan.
yeah. And then Brother Swan, he's all like hearts and flowers. Your loyalty to me is impeccable.
Bootlicker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gives him, feeds him, gasses him up.
Hmm.
You know what to do. I was like, do you? Do you know what to do? God.
He also has this, they're very Jesus-y, right? They're very
Yeah.
based around Christ, but he shifted the dogma so much around. This movie and most stories about cults, especially Jesus-y cults, kind of demonstrate how you can take the dogma of Christianity, which is built on kind of a constant reinterpretation of the text.
Yeah.
It is not quite as hard and fast as uh, Torah law or even the
Yeah.
laws in the
Yeah.
Quran, like other very specific religious texts have very specific rules that you follow. And Christian rules are pretty nebulous. Like we just pick and choose. Like I said about priest, right?
Yeah.
We're like, well, let's just pick this one thing out of Leviticus and say gay people are an abomination, even
Mhm.
though Jesus doesn't say shit about that later.
Yeah.
So he's doing the same thing we do in Christian culture, which is we pick and choose the things that we believe in and he can just form his own version of Christianity. This
Yeah.
is how you will ascend through
Yeah.
me. He even has these artifacts, like he has the horn of Abraxas.
Yes. Metal. That is like the like that. Yeah. The horn of Abraxas and that blade. I didn't catch its name, but they're given like certain powers. Like whenever they appear on screen, there's like a green flashing light that has this like I don't know sort of energy about it.
Yeah.
Demonic, supercharged psychic energy about these like artifacts.
It's the tainted blade of something something
Oh
from
yeah,
the
uh-huh.
abyssal layer.
Yes, this is like we're in full Dungeons and Dragons territory.
We totally are. When he hands him the horn of Abraxas, I was like, bitch, that's the Ocarina of Time.
I thought the same thing. Well, actually, I thought it was like, ooh, it's like a little pumice stone. He's gonna like pumice off his
Yeah.
feet later. No, 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 this is something very different. Okay, never mind.
And he also tells Brother Swan, like, also take this dude. I don't ever think they give
Uh-huh.
him a name. They just call him the
Yeah,
Porker, who so it's like
yeah.
the bigger, younger guy in the cult. Take him with you. We'll offer him up to seal the
Mm-hmm.
deal. So we know they're going to give up one
Sacrifice
of
one of their
theirs
own.
to get a new one
That's
in.
what love is, Jeffrey.
I cackled at this scene too because Brother Swan is, as you said, gassing him up, all lovey-dovey, bootlicking the
Yeah,
hell out of Jeremiah Sand, looking for that patriarchal love from
yeah,
his leader. And Jeremiah said, I can always count on you, buddy.
buddy.
What a way to deflate a moment. Ugh. So, buddy is the most like we are. That is the arm's length thing. You know, when you pick up
Mm-hmm.
your cat and you're like, I want to cuddle you, and then it sticks the stiff arm into your
Yeah,
chin.
yeah.
That's what the word buddy is.
Oh, absolutely. It's the I still fall higher on the pecking order than you do, other man. This movie really reminds me of like somebody told me once the old adage of like um hippies are nice people or mean people cosplaying as nice people and like metalheads are like nice people cosplaying as mean people.
I think that's incredible.
And this movie kind of has that kind of thing to it. It's like, Red and Mandy are these like really simple, nice people that, dress all in black and have like, maybe they look a little creepy on the outside, but on the inside, they're really simple, night, like kind of live and let live kind of people. And the hippies who are all flowing white robes and, should be very like lovey-dovey are terrifying
Yeah.
underneath.
hmm So Brother Swan and a couple of the other cult boys go out into the woods, and Brother Swan blows the ocarina of Abraxas,
Yep.
and he's got Beavis in the passenger
Oh
seat
my
with
God.
him.
What do we do now? We wait. And that kid fully fucking up and downs the windows in this 1976 van. It's just so funny. Like I love that just like the like the little simple details of, this is kind of it's a an electronic window,
hmm
electric window, but it's back from the 80s when everything wasn't, it kind of has like a whirring sound to it that is so grating and annoying, and I love it.
Yes. He, he's very much like a child in this moment. This is the thing that I would do as a kid of like play with the
Yeah,
window. My dad be like, you're gonna run the battery down."
exactly
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So the biker gang shows up.
Biker gang from hell, man.
They're all covered in spikes, very Hellraiser meets
Yeah.
WWE.
Uh-huh. Absolutely.
And Swan presents their leader with a mason jar filled with like clay. It's a clay smoothie, is what it
Yeah.
is.
Uh-huh. I thought it was blood.
He does say blood for blood, but we
Yeah.
see that smoothie later in the movie, and
Yeah.
it's chunky and gray, like it looks like ash,
Yeah.
but in
Like slurry.
yeah, yeah, like a classic gray potato sort of
Uh-huh.
look to it. And so that is that's the beginning of the offering. We know
Yeah.
from this gesture, hey, listen, we brought you your favorite smoothie.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we went to Jamba Juice. We
We
got
stopped
you
by
we
Jamba Juice. We brought you a kid to eat or kill or
uh-huh.
whatever you do with
Yeah.
them, and you're gonna get us this lady.
Yeah.
Which I also really appreciate that the cult itself is outsourcing its crime.
I know. Even in that, they're manipulative. Like they can't be tainted with their, they're like, no, we're too high and mighty.
Yeah. So the biker gang breaks into Red and Mandy's house late at night and basically ties up. They take them both. They tie up Red
Yeah.
and outside, and then basically hood Mandy and fade to black. But this scene, the kidnapping is done in this flickering blue light.
Yeah.
It made me think of a bug zapper.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like bug zapper light, and everything has a shimmer, not like a fade to it, which is
Hmm.
so like acidy. It's so LSD. And literally they dose Mandy where they put a drop of something in her eyeball
Which
and
is
then
their best
pull out
acid.
this giant wasp, sting her with it. And Mother Marlene, she's like, I like to call that the cherry on top. You're like, this is a horrifying. This is absolutely horrifying. But everything after that has this very LSD fade to it,
Yeah.
which means that all their movements like leave like little chemtrails behind their fingers, their gestures, everything.
Hmm.
So like it's really interesting visually because we are in the same headspace that Mandy must be in,
Yeah.
tripping balls. Like they're literally like helping her down the hallway because she is so, she can't comprehend. And they sort of plop her down in front of Jeremiah Sand and they make her listen to some terrible hippie record.
So so good. Wait, I have a question for you. Are there wasps that big in this world in real world?
I
Because
mean, the jungles of this planet, see, back to planet Earth, the
uh-huh.
jungles of this planet are intense.
Yeah,
So I don't doubt it, but that it was kind of like comically large
it
insect,
was.
like the size of your hand. No, I would bet there are. Now, whether they have hallucinogenic slash whatever properties,
Uh-huh.
that I do not know.
Well, wherever they are, I would like to never go there.
You
Yeah,
get stung,
Jeremiah.
you get stung by a wasp and you're just found like tripping days later. You're like, "Whoa, I got the cherry on top. No." Running through the jungle naked.
In Jeremiah's room, he puts on an album. And I
He
just
puts
assume
on
this
his
is going
own
to be,
album.
I assume it's just going to be some kind of acid rock and it's going to be part of the thing, but it is an album by Jeremiah Sand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is so horrible.
It's like 60s dulcimers and
Uh-huh.
like, Ren Fair-esque kind of
Yeah.
music. But this is such a cult leader trope of like cult leaders that love music so much they produce their own music and then it never goes the way they think. So they start a cult instead.
Yeah, and he even kind of starts showing some of that rage at the music
Yeah.
industry for never accepting his
Yeah.
genius.
Yeah.
But his music is all about him and how he is the leader of mankind sort of
Yep.
thing, and it's very
Come with
much
me and
a
ascend.
yeah. It's a very Charlie Manson sort of thing,
Oh,
right? Like they're
absolutely.
playing off of that storyline.
Yeah. It's
But
also the way he enters. He puts it on and he's like, "What do you think?" Wait, shh. This is the best part. I'm like, "You just asked her a question. Let that tripping girl answer." It's terrible. God, it's so uncomfortable.
I love a bold you're making a movie, find bold choices. Making any art piece, you need
Yeah.
accent. You
Yeah.
need an accent wall on that art piece.
Hmm.
And to me, I think one of the most striking moments visually in this film is when he leans into the camera and just is talking to Mandy about how God came and talked to him like a friend and told him they are wrong and you are right. But his eyes never waver from the camera, and if you just kind of stare into his face while you're watching this movie, you don't notice it right away, but they are overlaying her face on
Yeah.
his, and at one point, his lips aren't even moving
Yeah.
because they're hers.
And he doesn't blink. Neither of them blink the
No.
entire time. And the way they've shot this, their pupils are so fucking big, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
They are beach balls.
Yeah. He says, "Let us be so very special together." And you see her face. And when it cuts back to him, he is standing with his robe open, member out, everything.
Oh, yeah. Bold, full frontal male nudity.
Hmm.
Bold choice.
She says, "You made this song and it's about you?" And then she starts laughing,
Fast.
the most maniacal laughter.
Yeah.
And he is just screaming, "Shut up," to her, to everyone else in the room.
Yeah.
Everyone else is either like, "Dude, I'm not noticing," or
Yeah.
so tripped out that they're like, "What is happening?"
Yeah. But they can't even look at him because they know he's in this is not the way you treat the sanctified leader.
Yeah. He's an interesting combo between like this character of Jeremiah is an interesting combo between Charles Manson and James Gum slash Buffalo Bill.
Sure. Yeah, I see that.
Because Buffalo Bill is depicted as so emotionally fragile in
Yeah.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
And here we see Jeremiah immediately running to the mirror and being like, "Tell me what to do,"
Yeah.
like sobbing.
Yeah.
So they're going to go talk to Red and they pop out to the tree. Now, I have
Hmm.
a question just to figure out where we are in space here is where are we at Red and Mandy's house? Like they fully
Yes.
pulled up out. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's their house.
Because when they're taken like they're kind of taken when they're asleep in bed in that weird like they sleep in this is the other thing I want to talk about. They sleep in like a completely windowed room.
Yeah.
So they're like their bed is like on the floor and like out in nature.
Yeah.
And it has this it feels so exposed.
Hmm.
Like even just on a normal night, never mind when a, hippie cult is with biker gangs are out to get you. Like could you ever sleep like that with the idea of just like you're just kind of like out there?
It would be a long time to adjust to that. When I first left New York City and moved to upstate and lived very rurally, it took me a week to get used to sleeping there because of the darkness out the
Yeah,
window at night
sure.
and the dead quiet out the
Yeah,
window. And I think having a room full of all windows would have really freaked me out.
absolutely. I mean, in one way, it's very peaceful,
Uh-huh.
but it feels very naked and afraid to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a good point because they especially Mandy moves through the world like it just is what it is, man.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it just I'm not going to live in fear of the world. I can live off the grid. I can live in an isolated way, but that's the price of the beauty of the
Mm,
earth. That's the
yeah,
price of getting to see the stars at night, the
yeah.
beauty of nature and to be myself. And so the fact that she sleeps in a room like this, I think says she has a pretty untroubled mind.
Yeah. Like in the scene before the abduction, when she's telling, when Red wakes up from his dream and, she's telling him about the starlings, Red has a like almost like a premonition that something bad is coming.
Mhm.
And he says, I think maybe we should move. Like maybe we should get out of this place. Like, and he doesn't know, clearly doesn't know there's murderous hippies on their way.
Yeah.
But she says, no, we've made a little home here.
Mhm.
And you really get the feeling that they have made it, like they have carved it out of the land, but it's off the grid enough. It is removed enough, but they've made a peaceful home.
Yeah. Well, they go out to talk to Red, the cult does, and Jeremiah is very upset. He says, you and that whore think you're so in love. I'll show you love. Sister Lucy, come here.
Oh dear.
And Sister Lucy seems to be the youngest of the cult, maybe
Yeah.
one of the youngest, very young woman.
Yeah.
And he puts a single bullet in a revolver, spins it, hands it to her, and says, "Show him how much you love me."
Oh my God.
And she does Russian roulette against her skull right in front of him. And it's just click.
Yeah.
No bullet goes off.
Yeah.
Well, she
Is that what
demonstrated.
love is? Is that what love is?
Yeah. And you can see it on her face that
Yeah.
she is regretting joining this community
Yeah,
organization.
maybe. Yeah. Well, in that sort of trio of how Jeremiah treats his cult members, she's the last one, and she doesn't say a single word, but she's the only one who kind of walks in and she closes the door.
Uh huh.
And it's just very heavily implied that she is the sex part of the sex cult.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways, she is Sister Lucy very much looks like a person who is doubting her membership
Yeah.
here,
Yeah, a
but
bit.
she does what she was
Yeah.
supposed to do,
Yeah.
and she had her 5 and 6 chance of living through it,
Yeah.
and she won.
Yeah.
Jeremiah shows Red the tainted blade of jibber jab from the abyssal layer,
Yeah.
and he stabs Jeremiah stabs Red in his ribs,
Yes.
much like Jesus.
Uh-huh.
And he tells him, Jesus's big mistake was not sending someone else to die on the cross for not basically not pinning the crime on someone else.
What? You're like, isn't that the whole point? That's the
That
whole
I
I
think
died for
that
your sins
I
thing.
think that was the point of Jesus being honest about himself. Like, this is the
Imagine if
crime you've
Jesus was
accused me
like,
of.
that guy,
Yeah.
that guy, hey, look over there. That guy.
And from a purely like secular view of Jesus's actions there, he's like, well, I don't believe what I did was a crime, but you called it a crime, and what you're calling a crime is exactly what I did. So
Yeah.
what am I gonna do? I'm not gonna kill someone else just to get out of this. Um, then he says, Jeremiah then says, you'll find that the cleansing power of fire cannot be reasoned with.
Oh my God. This is so intense. They drag a body
Huh?
in a bag out, and they string it up on like an old swing set, and they
Uh-huh.
set fire to it, and they
Yeah.
make Red watch Mandy burn to death.
Hmm.
But it's interesting, you never see, like, no visual connection is made to prove that it's Mandy. So
Yes.
for me, there's always this like lingering feeling, or just like a sense of like incompletion, that it's like they tell Red it's Mandy, but there's never any proof
Yeah.
visually. So there's this feeling that like Mandy might still be out there. She might be in the back of their truck. It's just this feeling of incompleteness.
Yeah.
So this gesture, which is so horrible and which kind of incites the revenge part of this revenge fantasy,
Hmm.
is still very unsettling on multiple levels. But for that reason, it's this idea of like you never actually see it's Mandy in the bag.
And he never does either. So
No.
that's going to constantly play with his level of
Yeah.
fantasy for the rest of his life, but especially throughout the rest of this movie.
Yeah.
And then after they burn her, oh, we also see a shot of just about every cult member watching everybody who's seeing the burning.
Yeah. Yeah.
We see a shot of their face, and they're all kind of laughing, smiling, being like, hell yeah, they're
Yeah.
into it. Except for, of course, Red, who is
Yeah.
horrified,
Yeah.
and Sister Lucy, who looks even more like,
A little more
I should probably
shocked.
find a different job. I
Yeah,
should update
maybe.
my LinkedIn, I
Yeah.
think. Well, the cult all they get in their van and cars and just like, well, see ya. Drive back to their compound.
Wow.
Red finally gets himself free from they have his hands tied up in barbed wire and barbed wire around his face and jaw, like in his mouth. So he is already bloodied up, and he goes to try and hold her body, but she is
Yeah,
ashes blowing away in the wind.
yeah,
This movie is very funny, I wanna say, in the sense that it has a lot of comedic beats that are in the horror.
sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's a lot of very funny lines in the movie of like, "You ripped my shirt," or
Yeah,
whatever.
that was my favorite shirt, sure. But none
But
of them can top what's on the TV.
no, and this is so good because 1, it's hilarious, and 2, it reminds you we're in a we're in an absurd land.
Yeah,
Nothing makes sense, and it should be a little bit funny, especially after what we just went through.
yeah.
Would you like to talk about what is on television, Cecil?
So Nicolas Cage is bloodied in his underwear,
Uh-huh.
traumatized, just like and the television has been left on and a commercial comes on for a macaroni and cheese
Uh-huh.
and it features it's called Cheddar Goblin
Of course it
and
is.
it's of course it is and it has a like sort of like Gremlins-esque goblin
Uh-huh.
that just gets buried in mac and cheese throughout the course of this commercial. So it's like a puppet that is just having just like emerges from mac and cheese. It's like Cheddar Goblin was 60% more cheese. Apparently this short video was made by the same people who did Too Many Cooks.
Of course, yes. Okay.
But it has this like it's very 80s, like it's very Alf, Gremlins, kind of trolls, like has that sort of hand puppet creepiness to it, but like you put it in a TV commercial. The 80s was also famously, very commercials were king in the 80s and like appealing to the younger markets and like G.I. Joe, He-Man, Masters of the Universe, like all that sort of stuff. So it's just so weird to be marketing macaroni and cheese with something so terrifying like a cheddar goblin. And I think like earlier there's shots where like they're seen eating cheddar goblin mac and cheese, but we get the full commercial for it. And it is such a bizarre breath of laughter after watching the horrific events that are going to like which is it's also like halfway mark of the film. If the first half is setting everything up, the second half is knocking everything down.
This is this moment in the movie when Cheddar Goblin comes on screen is for me bodily was like the moment you reach down to drink what you think is your ice water
Yeah.
and it's fully like a vodka tonic.
Yes. Yes.
And you're like, "Whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa." And it's so jarring. There's a at one point this TV is in the background of the scene, but what's on the TV is a Cheddar Goblin puking cheese onto these children's heads.
Yes. It's
Um,
ridiculous.
I just went to YouTube and I started in the search bar. I started just typing in CHED and it was like Cheddar Goblin.
Oh my God. Yes.
So the full commercial is like a minute long and you can watch it on YouTube. I will watch that later. I didn't think to do that
Just
till
earmark
now,
that.
but we'll mark that. He he immediately like, passes out in bed and
Yeah.
has another like dream of animated Mandy like melting
Yeah.
away.
Zombifying.
Yeah. When he wakes up, he goes to the bathroom and in the cabinets of the bathroom, he has got a full bottle of vodka stashed.
Yeah.
Like break in case of
Now is the
emergency.
time to break that out.
Yeah, I think you're still allowed to keep your coin in this case.
Yes, I think so.
And he starts chugging the vodka and he starts pouring it on his wounds and chugging the vodka and pouring it on his wounds. And then he just goes, this is the moment he turns into Hulk.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's like a full 5 to 7 minute scene of just Nicolas Cage screaming.
Yeah, actually, yeah, this is the moment of the film where the actor who plays Red becomes Nicolas Cage.
Yes. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. And it's like screaming with pain, screaming with sadness, screaming with anger,
Mhm.
screaming like and it's just one shot and it's super intense and it's very unflinching. But yeah, you're right. Like it's the moment in which you see like the hardness of having, you know, like they're what this character is going through in such an unflinching way. No dialogue, just you're just watching this character live with the aftermath of this traumatic event. And the idea that it's Nicolas Cage, which is a famous actor that we kind of all know and love, and
Uh-huh.
you know, many of us grown up with and seen through many iterations of his career, you actually get to see the actor do the thing,
Hmm.
because he's kind of been in the background for like most of this movie. He's just been super quiet, like kind of hunched over, like his character is very non-assuming and very much giving love to Mandy.
Hmm.
And now that one thing, that one perfect thing about his life, his love has been taken away. Just it's a lot. It's a lot, a lot.
It it really is. So now he's gonna go out into the woods and go find his friend Carruthers. And this was kind of the first moment that I really realized, oh, we're dealing with the Vietnam vet here.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Because they don't talk about Vietnam, I don't believe at all is ever even mentioned. But given the timeline, given that Carruthers he's got his army fatigues on,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
lives super remotely, he keeps up with the CB radio
Mm-hmm.
chatter.
Mm-hmm.
This is very early 80s war vet sort of shit
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
on.
I mean, just the fact that he has "fuck off" written on the door of his trailer, and
Uh-huh.
when Red knocks on the door, his like Carruthers' first line is, "Can't you read?" Amazing. He opens the door. Oh, it's you.
And this is the great character actor Bill Duke, who was in Predator.
Oh yeah.
And just pulled out. Let's see. Let me pull this up here. Oh, of course. Yeah, he was also Menace to Society
Oh wow.
in that as well. And he was also in Commando. So and he also.
Action 80s action hero knowledge.
Hmm.
This is like the horror renaissance we're going through, is this idea of, putting nods to the horror movie genre, or the action, like, or the just movies in general within movies,
Yeah,
is so hot right now, Jeffrey.
it's so hot. It's the hotness right now. Yeah, he is one of these people. He's a that guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a guy that you see him and you immediately being like, I know I've seen him a
Hmm.
dozen other times in other things. And Red asks Carruthers for, he says, "Hey, I've come for the Reaper." And it
Gosh.
turns out that's a very special crossbow. And Carruthers is like, "What are you going to do with that? Going hunting?"
Well,
Oh, well, if you're going hunting,
uh-huh.
you'll need these very special arrows that will cut through bone like fat, basically.
Great.
But Carruthers says when he hears the story of what happened, he's like, "Oh, I believe those are that biker gang is the Black Skulls." And word's been coming down from the big rigs that there's some dark, fearful force out there.
Yeah.
But the legend is this was already a fearful biker gang to begin with that was always tripping on acid. And they had a chemist that
Yeah.
got so
That's right.
tired of them that
Yeah,
gave
they
them,
double crossed. They double crossed their dealer.
yeah. And that dealer, Walter White, their
Yeah.
Walter White, basically made a very bad batch of this LSD, thinking probably it would either kill them or turn them off of him.
Yeah.
But in fact, it made them just super monsters.
Yeah.
They ain't been right
Amazing.
since.
Amazing. Like, biker gang from hell, acid tripping. And he's like, "Oh, last time I saw them, they were in a huge amount of pain and they loved it."
Yeah. Great. Just great lore. I love
Just
it.
just so you know, that's what you're going up against. This is what you're gonna have to deal with. And
Uh-huh.
that's the thing about the revenge fantasy, is that it's like, you know you're walking in with, just like you. Well, he's got to make a weapon. He's got to have his own mystical weapon that he's going to make in a minute. But know that the odds are stacked against you.
Yeah.
And that's like the thing. It's such a, I mean, it's like Conan the Barbarian. It's such a fantasy novel idea.
and he is making a very exotic, ancient looking weapon.
Yeah.
It feels very Conan the Barbarian to
Yep.
have a giant battle axe,
Yep.
but also like vaguely alien.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Yeah.
that there's something
Otherworldly. Yeah.
otherworldly that is simultaneously ancient and
Yeah.
futuristic at the same
Yeah. Yeah.
time, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
the H.R. Giger's design in
Yeah.
Alien is so perfectly futuristic ancient. Title card, Mandy. He makes a dope ass battle axe. Who knows where he got this mold from?
I don't, who knows? Just something he's working on in the shed.
Yeah. Did not know he had some blacksmithing
And
skills.
yeah.
So he tries to go infiltrate. He tries to go just pick these bikers off one by one on the road. And he gets the tailing biker with the crossbow.
What does he do that, or does he go to see the chemist first? No,
No.
he starts picking off the bikers first.
Yeah, he starts with the bikers and he sees three of them
Yeah.
on the road and he starts to shoot the first one and he has the very smart idea, start with the last one
Mm-hmm.
because then they
Mm-hmm.
won't notice. Like get the guy in back, shoots him off of his bike
Yep. Tries to
and
run him over with his car, but that biker is so evil, it flips his car over, which I was like, is I'm not what?
it wasn't totally clear how the biker laying in the road did this
Nope.
to him,
Nope.
but he does. And baby, he had to crash that Honda. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, his SUV gets rolled down a hill, catches on fire. And the next thing, well, the next thing is not that he wakes up. The next thing is an animation of Mandy at the bottom of the
Yes.
sea with eyes glowing red. But Red wakes up and he is a prisoner in some kind of high rise
It's like
silo,
a silo, I think. Yeah, like a quarry.
maybe a quarry, something like that. It's not, we don't really ever get an exterior shot of their hideout. Quarry is a great guess.
Well, later we know that the Children of the New Dawn, kind of their church, is inexplicably set up in the middle of a quarry, but there
Hmm.
it has this feeling of like empty places,
Yeah.
desolate places. I
Yeah.
mean, we see later that they have killed two people, two elderly people, that presumably this is their house,
Yeah.
and they've just like killed these two people and made it their
Hmm.
death metal biker hangout.
Yeah. And that the house is it's just disgusting.
Yeah,
It is
like it's
episode of
takeout
hoarders.
containers.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's gross. But there's also like, yeah, like you said, it's also a silo. Like they're at the, you know, chatter teeth, or gloppy face, or whatever Cenobite death metal biker is talking to him, like, kind of gets kicked over the edge of this very tall structure.
Yeah.
Wibbly wobbly time. Where are we? Who
Who
knows?
knows? Well, I named the biker that is watching Nicolas Cage. They've got him
Okay.
prisoner.
Yes.
I just called him the Gimp because he looks
Yes.
like the Gimp from Pulp Fiction.
Yep. It's like a Cenobite meets the Gimp,
Yep.
but with like the alien acid blood just constantly coating his face, and
Yeah.
he's kind of like he always has like a nasal infection that's just
Yeah.
dripping out of his body.
Yeah. And the way they have Red pinned up is his right hand is handcuffed to a steam pipe on the wall, and his left hand has been hammered into the bench.
Oh my God. Yikes.
Again, with the Jesus imagery, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's trying to rattle free, and we can see as he's rattling the handcuff on the bar, we can
One
see
of the
that bar
pipes
is
is kind of
loose.
loose. The pipe is kind of loose.
And the Gimp is hitting him and punching him, and the Gimp says, "You have a death wish," and he says, "You're a vicious snowflake." He rips that bar out of the wall and knocks his ass down this shaft.
Yeah.
He also, when he says you have a death wish, Nick Cage goes into this like fake sobbing sort of thing. Red goes into the fake sobbing bit of like, oh, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Again, with the classic revenge film or action film, I think old school kung fu and ninja films would be like this too, and it's depicted in Pulp Fiction, which is, all right, now I'm free to look around to find a weapon.
Yes,
And he finds a
absolutely.
thick leather vest and a box cutter.
Yeah. What's interesting, it's so funny to me, like he has to like take on the persona, the mantle of the thing that he set out to destroy.
Yeah. Yeah, clothes make the man in this
Hmm.
movie. And he's starts with this vest, and as this scene goes along, he's going to get bloodier and messier
Bloodier
and
and
adding
bloodier
more
and
weaponry,
bloodier.
adding more clothing, adding more things. It's coming all the way from him just in his tiger t-shirt and tidy whities
Yeah.
during Cheese Goblin
Yeah.
to by the end he is fully like looking like one of these bikers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he finds a biker doing quite literally a mound of cocaine
Uh-huh.
on a coffee table while watching porn.
Uh-huh. Yep. Oh my God. And unfortunately, the biker sees his reflection in the TV.
Uh-huh.
And this biker is
Uh-huh.
wearing a knife codpiece,
Uh-huh.
not unsimilar to the knife codpiece from Seven.
Yes.
Unfortunately, this knife codpiece will be his downfall. Literally.
Yeah, when he gets when he gets flips Red over the couch and comes after him, when he dives after him after Red, that knife codpiece gets lodged into the floor
Oh my God.
and he can't move, and Nick Cage is able to box cutter his neck open.
Yeah. And I mean, we get a full on deluge of blood. Like it's just like Nick Cage is just like being bled upon
Uh-huh.
by the gallon. And honestly, he's going to be bloody faced like throughout the rest of the film. And
Yeah.
it's so funny like how in similar in like the beginning how like Mandy's very pale face with very big dark eyes. Nicolas Cage is kind of the inverse of red is the inverse of that. He is red faced and his eyes are so blue and white, are so light,
Mm-hmm.
especially by the end. It's really jarring, like
Yeah.
the sort of inverse of these two images.
This is such a graphic novel sort of
Oh yeah,
approach to how the style of this movie definitely feels in that adapted from a graphic novel sort of thing. Well, another dude comes in the living room, fires a shotgun, manages to
yeah,
miss, but he does tear Red's shirt, which Red makes a point of when he comes after this guy. And another fun short fight sequence, and he manages to snap this biker's neck in like
oh yeah,
classic TV show, like
yeah,
elbow around the throat, crick,
yeah,
drops to the floor. So now he finds one, the giant pile of coke. He takes
oh
a
yeah,
huge sniff of that. He
amazing.
finds his battle axe in the
Yep,
kitchen cabinets, or no, above the up on the above the doorway,
yeah,
and he finds his crossbow in the kitchen cabinets up where the cereal bowls are. And then he finds that clay smoothie. And he does a little dip like I do with
uh-huh,
like when I get hot sauce at a place to
uh-huh,
be like, let's just double check how much of this I need. Just a little dab on your finger, touch it to your tongue, and then boom, like 5 straight seconds of just faces melting at rapid
yeah,
pace.
yeah. And he gets like a premonition of where the acid came from, this like
Mhm.
radio tower, this and everything in this movie is so saturated with color. It's very otherworldly. It's like magenta, electric blue, colors not usually found in nature, but
Mm-mm.
often found on acid trips.
So now he's fully ready. Now he is cranked.
Yeah.
He goes outside and he sees another biker figure standing next to a burning car. And he shoots this guy through the throat with a
Yeah.
crossbow. We see blood shooting out of the wound. Doesn't seem to affect this
No, the
fellow at
biker is
all.
like these bikers are so like the fact that they even speak is surprising
Yeah.
because they're kind of unstoppable forces of evil.
Yeah.
and their power and their scariness is in their unstoppableness. So like he shoots this guy through the neck with a crossbow, doesn't react, doesn't move, doesn't scream, doesn't cry, nothing. To the point where you're like, is it a stuffed hollow man?
Yeah, there's something very like orc-like about them.
Yeah.
It's just yeah.
Orc scarecrows of biker metal death.
Yeah. So we get into a big fight sequence with Red with his battle axe and this man fighting him off with his little sword thing or whatever, and it's fun. It's a great
Yeah.
fight choreography, but at the end he's got Red has the biker pinned against the flaming car with his axe sword combo, and like everyone in this movie, he is not afraid of death and wants to spit in the face of death. And he says, she's still burning.
I
She
know.
burned real bright. And he's like, shoves him into the fire and then lops off his head and then lights a cigarette off of his decapitated head that is on fire.
My God, so metal.
This is where he goes to find Walter White.
The chemist.
I fucking love the chemist.
Yeah.
What an incredible scene this is. Because he knows Nick Cage is entering there.
Yeah.
One, this lab is like long. The lights come up in this
It's
super
all white.
futuristic. Yeah, all white.
After all the color saturation, it's the only like kind of white light
Yeah.
set piece.
And anything that's not lit by the bright fluorescent lights is black. And he's wearing no shirt but a leather black apron.
Mhm.
Kind of hostile vibe
Yeah.
to it, I
Yeah.
guess.
And he has a tiger in a cage.
He does. And he says, that's Lizzie. When she's calm, I know it's good.
Uh-huh.
Which I really love because Lizzie is sitting calmly in the
This is just
cage.
chilling. Yeah.
But the camera is underneath the chemist a little bit
Yeah.
as he's staring off toward where Red would be. And we never hear Red say anything.
No.
And I, in fact, don't think he does say anything.
No.
The chemist just understands from his look exactly what he means. I fucking adored this scene because there's a long
Yeah.
pause and he says, you're right. God, you're right. And he lets Lizzie out of the cage and she runs free. Like he just had never considered it seems wrong to keep a wild cat in a cage.
Yeah.
And he says, oh man, they wronged you. Why do they got to be like that? And then he says, if you're looking for the children, they're north. And then
Amazing.
there's a shot of the tiger growling or howling at the moon like the most incredible t-shirt design you've ever seen.
Yeah. Like full wizard van airbrush territory.
Fuck, this is a cool scene.
But I love that it's like Nicolas Cage, the idea that Nicolas Cage is hell bent on revenge, right?
Yeah.
And he has a list. He has the Kill Bill list. And anyone who's not on the list is he's not interested in. So like
Mm-mm.
even though the chemist is one of the most horrifying, you know, terrifying characters that we meet in this cast of terrifying characters, all he needs is to know like where are the children, and he kind of lets this monster live because it's not the monster he's hunting.
It's so interesting that, yeah, I think that's such a great point to bring up because the question about revenge came up for me, obviously, per my intro, as in revenge is so different than justice, but it feels like justice.
Yeah.
And just like an orgasm feels like love. And I don't mean I'm not trying to be gross. I'm just trying to
Mhm.
say like in a
Yeah.
moment like
Yeah.
your body fills with feeling, physical and or emotional, and you're tricked into believing that that rush of feeling is solving something and it's not. It's only solving a pain for
Yeah.
it's a painkiller. And so he's not seeking justice at all. He just needs the people to die who did this.
Yeah.
Because justice would be figuring out what the root cause of this evil really is.
Sure.
And I'm not saying the chemist is the root cause of this evil, but
But
I'm going to say he's
he kind of
related.
created the monsters. Yeah, like
Yeah.
he's the monster maker
Yeah.
that made this LSD bad acid biker gang
Yeah.
implicit,
Uh-huh.
but not so implicit that no, Nicolas Cage has a list. And if you're not, like, if you were not directly responsible for the death of his love,
Yeah.
uninterested.
Yeah, and we're going to see that in a moment when he lets Sister Lucy walk
Yeah.
because she did not string up
Yeah.
Mandy, nor did she laugh or smile. She
Yeah.
looked
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
horrified at the death
Yeah.
of Mandy. So while I'm sure he will never forgive her or want to be friends with her, he
Yeah.
certainly did
Doesn't
not
take
need to
her
put her on the
vengeance
list.
out on her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Red heads north, gets on his ATV, and gets stuck in mud out of the quarry. So now he's got to get out and walk. And I think this when the camera gives you a wide angle of where his ATV gets stuck, it's like quicksand. There's like
Yeah.
4 or 5 other car bodies like stuck in this, like 3/4 deep into the mud. Then there's an animation of Mandy standing over like a wounded man beast,
Yeah.
and she reaches into its side and pulls out like just a glowing green gemstone. It looks like Masters of the Universe sort of animation. And is that wounded beast metaphorically, or is this wounded beast man? Is that red because
I
he's
think
got
it's,
this the
oh,
the hip
maybe.
wound, or is it?
Oh. I mean, I interpret it as kind of as Sand, as Jeremiah Sand,
Mm-hmm.
as in like this is the last part. This is the like take your revenge, you know,
Interesting.
kill the beast, take your revenge, become
Yeah.
filled with the glowing green light of, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
vigilance. I don't fucking know.
I mean, again, it's metal as fuck, is what it
Yeah.
is. So he's he's fully like spying from above on the cult
Yeah.
compound, and we see essentially the what looks like the A-frame house from Midsommar
Uh-huh. Turned
is
into a
this
creepy
church.
church. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tiny home church.
Mm-hmm. So there, Swan and Lucy are in the church van.
Yeah. They're going out to run some errands. They're going to go run into town.
Uh-huh. And they hit road spikes. And Swan says, "This is not ideal." And is immediately attacked by Red. The tip of Red's axe is a giant blade,
Yeah. Yeah.
which he runs through Swan's mouth as he is also touting how brightly Mandy burned.
Yeah. Was it the darker the horror, the brighter the flame? He says at
Yeah.
one point.
Yeah.
No, Red does not want to hear that.
No. He doesn't. He in fact does not. And I salute anyone who can face down death with a witty quip. But
Uh-huh.
I am probably a little closer to reacting like Jeremiah does at the end of like, I don't
Yes.
know, man.
Yeah, I
Do
know.
you want a
Yeah.
blowjob? I don't know. What do you want?
Uh,
Tell me. So he lets Lucy go. She just
yeah.
watches on with tears running down her
Yeah.
face, and Red just moves on. Again, like you said, you're not on my honeydew list. Like
Yeah.
you're not on my Kill Bill list. Beavis is out washing, literally spit shining his car as he
Uh-huh.
gets a spinning axe to the head
Oh my
from
God.
side view,
Yes.
silhouetted. And then Red finds a chainsaw,
Oh my
which,
God.
what better tool for a lumberjack to
I
use in a
know.
fight?
Yeah.
And I don't know who this character's name is, Lurch.
I don't know. Like he doesn't, I mean, he's definitely part of the children of the new dawn. We see
Mm-hmm.
him earlier, but he is jacked.
He's super
He's
jacked.
the largest of the children of the new dawn.
Mm-hmm. And so Red is trying to get this chainsaw started, kind of your standard little, whatever 22-inch chainsaw, and he's trying to get the motor started, and Lurch sees him, acts casually, reaches behind the log he's sitting on, pulls out his chainsaw, which is a full like 48 60-inch. It's like
It's
5 feet
like
long.
3 times the size of Nicolas Cage's chainsaw. It's not a metaphor, I promise.
Uh-huh.
They're not the chainsaw fight. You know, that was like the thing that I had heard most of this movie was about this goddamn chainsaw fight.
It's a very good chainsaw fight.
It's I mean it's an excellent chainsaw fight.
Uh-huh.
But it has this kind of like out of place, out of timeness that this movie like Red literally puts down his battle axe to pick up a chainsaw
Uh-huh.
just so we can have a fight with a man with another chainsaw.
It definitely felt gratuitous. I'm
Uh-huh.
glad. I like that, you know.
Call me Mr. Gratuitous
Uh,
Chainsaw Fight.
That's right. Yeah. I think yeah, I think that the free soft serve at Jason's Deli is gratuitous, but I
Yeah,
don't complain.
that's right.
And so yeah, it's like let's do this shit. And so they do have the chainsaw fight, great fight choreography, lots of nicking each other in the sides
Yeah.
and twirling under and like the grind of the two chainsaws hitting each other. Uh Having used a chainsaw quite a few times before in my life, I will tell you that one thing a chainsaw probably will not do is like clink together and grind
Uh-huh.
against another chainsaw. What's going to happen is both chainsaws are going to push each other away
Fly apart.
at the pace in which those blades are turning.
Uh-huh. Yeah, but you know what? Fantasy.
Fantasy. He he disarms Lurch, but Lurch ultimately disarms him, and Lurch ends up with the short chainsaw and is coming at a disarmed Red, but Red has the chain, giant chain,
Yeah.
lassos this dude around the neck and pulls him down onto that
His
6 foot.
own
Yeah.
chainsaw. Ugh.
Another thing about chainsaws is they have, and I believe are federally mandated and required to have a safety switch
A little
so that if you're
safety
not
off.
holding the trigger of the chainsaw with your finger, it will turn itself off.
Even in the 80s, though,
Oh, that's true. This is the
the 80s were
1980s.
wild.
Mm-hmm.
There's like no safety precautions in the 80s.
No, yeah, no, it was you had to get a special package to get seatbelts in your car.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. Oh, you didn't get the luxury trim, you don't get seatbelts.
Oh no.
You do get a cigarette lighter though. So finally, Red enters the
The
church.
church.
It's very funny. He goes up to the altar and there's like an ancient looking tome,
Yeah.
giant dusty book.
I mean, I love it. You know, it's one of my favorite horror movie tropes.
I always think of you when I see a giant dusty book. And
And
he,
his reaction to it is
yes,
amazing.
yes.
Because we're, you know, like we're in this movie of like, you know, death metal, LSD, Alice in Wonderland, in which all these characters exist. And, you know, we're kind of hoping for some sort of why are they doing it? Why? Why?
Hmm.
And when you see a big dusty tome, big dusty Necronomicon in a horror movie, inevitably there's some sort of info dump explanation. And Red literally just takes that book and just chucks it to the side because, like, you can see on his face that whatever the fuck is written in that book is absolute nonsense. Just gobbledygook, cult speak nonsense. No answers here.
I thought about how when I got a new toaster, I ordered a new toaster on Amazon and it came in the mail and I opened it up and I was like, great, I got a decent toaster now. And then
Oh,
it
should I
came
read the
with a little,
instructions?
it came with an instructions and I kind of opened it up and started reading the instructions. I'm like, I don't need this shit. And I just tossed it. Like, I don't need toaster
Yep.
instructions.
Yes.
And that
I
was
know how toasters
exactly,
work.
that was exactly what he did. He looked at this text and was like, why am I reading this shit?
Yeah.
I don't need to know their rationale.
I don't need to know their backstory. I don't need to know their mythic creation story. I don't need to know what the fuck they talk about during their, you know, religious orgy meetings.
Uh-uh.
Fuck that. Amazing. I love it. Like it's really funny. Like there are these funny moments that kind of keep you hanging on
Hmm.
because the rest of this movie is so brutal and bleak.
Hmm. It is. I compared it to like Acid Trip Kill Bill earlier.
Hmm.
Like Kill Bill is like the both movies are like stylized,
Yeah.
heavily
Oh yeah.
stylized. But Kill Bill is like slick and cool.
Yeah.
And if we were gonna use like high school tropes, like the
Yeah.
hippie and the metalhead, Um, Kill Bill definitely feels a little bit like the star athlete, and
For
this
sure.
feels like the metalhead who smokes behind the gym
Yeah,
at
yeah.
lunch.
That like makes amazing shit during art class, but
Yes.
nobody really knows about it. Yeah.
And nobody picks on him because he has a
It's
tattoo at
big
age
and dark and
16 and
foreboding.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So he goes down. There's a trap door behind the altar, that a long ladder that goes down into the bowels of the church, and he finds Mother Marlene.
Oh my God. I love this is actually out of all these sort of set pieces, this is like, and it's we spend so little time here, and I love it. It's like a giant cavernous room that has one of those fake Hawaiian sunset walls,
Uh-huh.
as in from Twin Peaks, like Derek Jack or from Derek, Dr. Jacoby's sort of office,
Uh-huh.
and a giant like sea salt lamp and fake grass and two chairs, but in the middle of this giant cavernous cave. And honestly, jealous. I
Yeah.
want that in my house. I want a cave underneath my house that has nothing but like a one lamp and like a sunset Hawaiian sunset wall.
Yeah. Where's this filter option on Zillow?
Oh my God, yes.
He approaches Mother Marlene, who again goes right into offering sexual favor to get
Seduction.
out of seduction. And she says, Jeremiah says I'm the most sensual lover he's ever experienced because of my sensitivity and empathy.
Uh-huh. Yeah, tell me more about your
Amazing words.
empathy. Yeah.
And it's a great
I
monologue
can
that she has.
anticipate my lover's movements like the ocean rising to the shore.
She says, like warm waves
Yes.
licking the rocky, hard shore.
Oh my God.
And then it fades to black as he's looking at her. And then the next scene is Jeremiah in his naked room. I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever he's doing.
Yeah, so we never like really get Mother Marlene's death. Like we
No,
just assume he kills her and moves on. Doesn't, but like no answers given there.
except in this next scene, the first thing when Jeremiah turns around and says, "Oh, hi," he rolls Marlene's head
Oh,
in
there you
there like
go.
a bowling ball.
Yep, that's it.
it's it's uh it's ridiculous.
I love it. Like,
Jeremiah trying to play he's trying to find the right tone. This is a man,
yeah,
cult leader type, who can
yeah,
talk his way out of anything.
yeah.
So he has all of these different it's not multiple personality disorder. It's not playing off of that. It's playing off of a man who knows sometimes you have to use anger and
Different tactics.
scolding.
Yeah,
Sometimes you have to be charming. So he starts with
yeah,
like, "Oh, hi.
yeah. Hey, buddy.
Hey." And then he gets caught off guard by this head rolling at
Yeah,
him where he like squeals like almost like a cartoon housewife
yeah.
from the
Like seeing a
50s
mouse.
seeing a
Yeah, yeah. Like
mouse.
an elephant seeing a mouse in a cartoon.
Yeah. And he tries to like play tough spiritual guru type who's
Mm-hmm.
like, "You can't harm me. You are an unholy abomination. You aren't even worth my spit." And Red is going back and forth with him. It's almost like two people arguing or like throwing Bible verses at each
Uh-huh.
other as a
Yeah, for
form of
sure.
Christian
Yeah.
debate. And it kind of ultimately ends in Red
I mean,
saying, "Well, I'm your god now."
yeah. Well, the Joseph Campbell quote he throws at him is amazing. He says, psychotics drown. Is it was psychotics drown in the river that mystics swim in, that mystics
Yes.
swim in?
Yes.
You're drowning.
Mm-hmm.
You think you're a mystic, but you're drowning in your own psychic bullshit. I'm your god now.
Yeah. This is
Amazing.
incredible rap battle. It's so
Yes.
good. Yeah.
It's like a psychic rap battle. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. So he finally has Jeremiah kneeling, and Jeremiah, because so Jeremiah starts with, "I'll blow you, man. I'll suck
Yeah.
your dick,"
Yeah.
which I think is that the character in Menace to Society? I think, like,
I don't
I
know.
don't know, but anyways, but yeah, like, and I will suck your dick out. What is that? What you want? Is that? And then he turns halfway into his monologue. He's like, "No, no, wait, I don't kneel before you. I carry God's gift in my heart."
Yeah.
And this is where
I
Red
can't
says,
go out like this.
yeah. And this is where Red says, I'm your god now, and crushes his skull between his
Just
hands.
like eyes pop out.
Hmm. Classic 80s
Yeah.
special effects looking thing,
Yep.
too, where you.
Very like Cronenberg scanners,
Mhm.
head explosion.
And so Red, lights the church on fire, gets the fuck out of there, gets back into his car to drive away to home, wherever, who knows? And he starts having a flashback of when he met Mandy for the first time. And then he imagines her sitting in the passenger seat of the car that he's in now. And it's so, what a funny moment, because this image that we're going to get of him is a still I've seen before. It's used
Yeah.
in promos for this movie. But we see first Mandy looking beautiful. I mean, she's
Yeah.
looking
Yeah. Yeah.
so gorgeous in
Like
this.
ethereal. Yeah.
Yeah. And the way she looks at him is, it's not sexy, except that there's sexiness in somebody looking at you with familiarity and comfort.
Sure.
And she just looks so peaceful
Yeah.
and so comfy in the car with him. And then it cuts back to him, and he is fully like garish lighting,
Yeah.
face crusted in black and red and bright, those bright white eyes and huge white teeth and a full grimace.
Yeah. Smile, smile, scream. I don't know.
Unreal. Unreal. What a hil- hilarious and shocking visual to end this almost end this movie on. Because the final visual is him driving away, and we see the landscape sort of
Yeah.
looking like a pulp novel cover.
It's other like there's like three suns, there's like
Yeah.
three planets in the sky. Like he's
Yeah.
been sucked into this fantasy world
Yeah.
and there's kind of no escape. And now he has taken on the kind of the warrior trope. Now he is the wandering warrior with no home.
Yeah.
Stranger in a strange land.
It's having just watched the original Mad Max from 1979, there's a lot of that vibe to it
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
That 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 you watch a very normal person turn into
Yeah.
something else.
You become the thing that you've been set out to destroy
Uh-huh.
in the end.
Uh, yeah, violence begets violence.
Yeah.
Hurt people,
That's
Cecil.
right. Thank
Uh,
God they do.
but and then after there's a brief post-credit thing that has nothing to do with the plot of the movie, but at the end of the credits there is just a still image of a bunch of the artwork, like
Oh,
sketches,
amazing.
and like one of them is a drawing of Red, or in his tiger t-shirt, and then like a
Love it.
tiger drawn in the background of it. It's really cool. It's a neat little visual at the end. The end. Shall we rate this film?
Why not?
All right, I'm gonna rate this movie just on approachability for the horror averse. Cecil's gonna rate this as just a horror movie in general, regardless of approachability. So, how approachable is this movie if you are horror film averse on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not at all approachable, 10 being very approachable? I'd give Mandy 2 out of 10 cheese puking goblins. Like, it's pretty fucking bloody and it's pretty fucking bleak. It is funny at times, but like, you're gonna get home invasion. You're gonna get, but beyond the blood and gore, you're gonna get home invasion, cult brainwashing. You're gonna hear about baby animal death and see baby animal death. There's a lot going on in here, so it's fun. It's a really cool movie. I maybe if you can handle movies like Kill Bill and you're not that affected by that kind of violence, you'll be fine, but I don't know. Let's say 2 out of 10 cheese puking goblins for approachability. As a horror film, what do you think, Cecil?
This movie is really interesting because it doesn't have a lot of the beats of a horror movie. It's not the like jump out and scare
Hmm.
you. It is like we said, it's a very quiet movie, but the visual images that you see are so shocking
Uh-huh.
oftentimes. It is high fantasy, dark horror. I mean, I will say maybe it's a little bit slow. It's a little bit simple. It's a very art house version of a grindhouse movie.
Yes.
You know, like it doesn't have the sort of schlocky acting, it doesn't have the schlocky special effects. It's like everything is very top notch and it knows it's very top notch.
Uh-huh.
The soundtrack is amazing. The special effects are amazing, but it does, you got to kind of lean into this one. It's not going to like jump out and grab you. You got to invest your time into this horror movie.
Agreed.
So for that reason, I don't know, I would say 8 out of 10 knifey cod pieces.
Perfect. Well, let's figure out what we will watch next. You have a scare die, I have a style die. We'll roll those two up and see what movie fits those two things. So, Cecil, on your scare die, if you roll a 1, our next movie scare is Isolation. 2, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. 3, Demons. 4, Mother Earth itself. 5, Clowns or Dolls, and Dolls, who knows? Or 6, Aliens. What's our scare?
That's a 3.
We're gonna do demons. Okay, let's figure out what that demon matches up with my style die roll. If I roll a 1, it's got to be a movie from the Southern Hemisphere. If I roll a 2, it's got to be based on a true story or account. If I roll a 3, wild card, whatever demon movie we want. 4, it's got to be a period piece. 5, it's got to be from the 1990s. Or 6, it's got to be an urban movie. All right, let's see here. What do we got? I've got a 2 that is Demons based on a true story.
Ooh, exciting.
Oh, there's gonna be a lot here.
We've got quite a few here.
We wrote down a bunch, and then we also have a Letterboxd account. We're Random Horror 9 at Letterboxd. So, yeah, if you're on Letterboxd, go visit Random Horror 9. Look at our lists, and we put up all of the possible matches of what scare and style can be, and you can contribute to those through the comments field there. So, let's talk about what we put on this list first, and then we'll go to the letterbox and see what our followers had to say there. First off, the very first one, the very first two that come to mind, Amityville Horror and The Exorcist.
Yeah,
Classic, based
classic.
on a
Yep.
true account. Maybe not a true or truthful story, but it is
Yes.
based off of an account that people posited as
Yep.
nonfiction. Another one is Annabelle.
Oh
So
yeah.
from the Conjuring
Yeah, yeah,
cinematic
that sort of
universe.
universe. Yeah. Oh man. What
I
else?
think you might have put this, or did I put this? Deliver Us from Evil.
Oh yeah, this is an interesting one.
This is a 2014 film about a yeah, violent crimes in New York City. Cop
Hmm.
tries to find rational explanation, but starts to eyes open to an alternate reality
Uh-oh.
of some kind of demonic possession might be to
I love
blame.
a police procedural that involves demons.
Mhm.
It's like Law and Order, SV Demons.
We also have a 2012 movie called The Possession.
The Possession,
Um,
let's see, is this the one? This is an interesting one because this is kind of one of the rare non-Christian demon possession movies. So it's
okay,
sort of based on a true story, but it's sort of based around the sort of Jewish idea of the Dybbuk,
okay,
of a ghost or a spirit.
interesting. And this is also like a possessed item as well, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Then we have The Right. Is this the Anthony Hopkins movie, I believe? Yes. This is 2011, starring Anthony Hopkins.
Yes.
Uh,
It's like he's the Pope's exorcist. He's
uh-huh.
the only Catholic priest that actually does exorcisms, and boy, does he get trapped into a good one.
We have The Haunting in Connecticut from 2009.
Yeah.
This is another very similar to Conjuring type
Yeah.
of.
Ghost house, spooky family trapped in a spooky old house
Mm-hmm.
being possessed by demons.
Uh-huh. And then finally on our list, The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
You know how that other one was a police procedural? This one is a courtroom drama with demons.
Great. Perfect. I love Venn diagrams of genres
Hmm.
when we start overlapping. Let's find out what the folks over on Letterbox had to say about this and which ones they wanted to propose that we do.
What do we got here? Diamond Dogs recommends The Pope's Exorcist, the movie I just brought up, based on the life of Father Gabriel Amorth, who wrote several novels about exorcisms he performed. Stars Russell Crowe. It is a bit silly and a lot of fun. Yeah, this one definitely is a little more on the campy side, but it kind of is campy for all the right reasons. Like it knows it's again that Catholic, the wacky Catholic Church.
Yep.
Weaponized Toaster throws out The Conjuring 2.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
We
All
did
those sort of,
Conjuring 1, I believe,
yeah,
for maybe Patreon. I can't remember.
yeah. Ganymede's Cup recommends The Right.
Which, yep.
Yeah, which we mentioned on there. The Making of the Modern Exorcist. Deliver Us from Evil. Yep, we got that one from Danico Ray. Fifth Hammer, thirding The Exorcist.
Uh-huh.
Chuck or Not. Recommends Cropsy, which is a movie that I've never seen, and it sounds really intriguing to me. Uh,
Yes.
Cropsy, I don't know how
Cropsy.
you say Cropsy.
Yeah, it's a Staten
Um,
Island thing.
it begins as an examination of Cropsy, a boogeyman-like figure from New York City urban legend, before segueing into the story of Andre Rand, a convicted child kidnapper from Staten Island whose known or suspected crimes in the 1970s, 80s may have inspired or been blamed on Cropsy. So it's like documentary, which definitely based on true story.
I have seen this movie before. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate Chuck and Nut throwing that out. I don't remember that
Is it a
it has
demon?
much to do with demons, but it's definitely based on a true account.
Yeah.
It does have like a very haunted old
Yeah. Yeah.
asylum-y
Yeah.
type of vibe to it. And I love anything that like gets into parts of New York City we don't spend much time in, like Staten Island.
Absolutely. Like urban legend territory.
Yeah.
Aldrich von Fausto loves Emily Rose. As an alternative, more poltergeist than demon is The Entity, based on the 1974 case of Doris Bither, who claimed to have been repeatedly attacked in her home by an invisible entity.
Oh man. Yeah, this looks intense.
Uh-oh.
Early 80s demon movie. The
Yeah.
Entity is unfortunately not currently streaming
Oh,
in the
alas.
United States, so we're gonna have that issue there. But that sounds like a very good one.
Jacob Chipman also throws out the Amityville Horror,
Mhm.
1979. Absolutely. Demony, based on, it's got Margot Kidder. The Lutz family. Oh, the Lutz. Oh, Ronald DeFeo. And J.B. Wolfe recommends The Exorcism of Anna Eklund, a UK film about a case from 1882 in Wisconsin.
This
So it's
is
kind of
so
a
interesting.
based on true story period piece going back to the 19th century. It's kind of interesting. Never
I'm
heard of
gonna
this one.
I do want to I want to tell you a couple of facts about the exorcism of Anna Eklund that I think are simultaneously reasons that we have to watch this movie and why we should never watch this movie.
Okay.
One, it's currently only streaming on Tubi,
Okay, sure.
and two, it has a 19% rating.
Ooh. Oh, that's low.
That is very low, which makes me super curious.
It might be amazing. It might also make me want to throw my television out the window.
hmm Okay, well, what's standing out to you, Cecil?
It's hard. This is a hard one because we've got some juggernauts on here.
hmm
We've got some biggies. Now, we have never watched The Exorcist for
Nope.
this show.
No.
We have never watched The Amityville Horror for this
Mm-mm.
show. And I think these are two like kind of landmarks of the horror genre.
Yeah.
They are both based on a true story. So I think like those two are clearly, the 70s Amityville Horror is kind of it's inspired multiple remakes and spin-offs, and it kind of was the template of people trapped in a house with a demon.
Yeah.
The Exorcist is famously like one of the most respected and like behind maybe like The Shining, like the most like the scariest movie ever made.
Yeah.
So I think those two should definitely be on there. I gotta throw in there The Exorcism of Emily Rose because there's a like the way the movie attacks the idea of exorcism, it's almost less about the exorcism and it's more about, is it a demon? Is it psychology? And how do you
Uh-huh.
break that down in a courtroom drama. So it had just kind of adds that interesting layer that you don't usually get. So it's
Yeah.
not just, which, listen, we've got a bunch of movies about priests chasing demons. And so The Exorcism of Emily Rose kind of takes a different tactic.
Yeah.
So those are my three.
I agree with all three of those movies. I think they're. I'm really, really curious about Exorcism of Emily Rose. I do think, for the sake of the show and having talked to, we're gonna run into priests chasing demons. I really think we should do The Exorcist. I think we
Yeah.
should just get that on here
Yeah.
and do it
It's
because
time. It's time.
every other movie about exorcisms from them, no matter
Yeah.
what story they're based off of, they have to reference back to
Yeah.
The
Like The
Exorcist.
Exorcist did it. They did it like one of the best. And you're either in the shadow of The Exorcist or you're like, it's just, it casts a long shadow.
I totally agree. And so I think for that reason, we should just knock this motherfucker out of the park
Let's
and
do it.
yeah, and do that. And it is clearly available for streaming. And yeah, so let's watch The Exorcist.
Let's do it.
God
Your
damn,
mother
let's
sews
not.
socks in hell.
Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Cecil, for talking with me. And if you have thoughts on Mandy or ideas for other movies that would have been good demon movies based on a true story, let us know on Instagram at Random Horror 9 or on Patreon, where we have public discussion threads for each and every episode. And you do not need to be a paying member to participate in those. So watch The Exorcist 1973 with us this week and come on back next Tuesday for a new episode. Have a restful night with no one spiking your clay smoothie with LSD or nothing. Boo.
Boo.